everyone. So today I'll be discussing about the non-technical and non-scientific approaches to curriculum. I am Chari Megastala. I am currently taking up Doctor of Philosophy and Education major in Curriculum Development. So as for the presentation's objectives, at the end of the presentation, we should be able to identify the different non-technical or non-scientific approaches to curriculum, differentiate the Saylor and Alexander model, Lewis model, and the Oliva model, and identify the curriculum approaches in the Philippine context. So as for my presentation, I had divided this into 3 parts. So the first part, I'll be discussing on the non-technical and non-scientific approaches. Second part, on the Saylor, Alexander, and Lewis models and the Oliva model. And for part 3, I'll be discussing about curriculum approaches in the Philippine context. So let us begin with the non-technical models and approaches. So this presentation is actually just a continuation of Ma'am Renalyn's report, which is on the technical and the non-scientific approaches. So this time I'm going to give you the different types of non-scientific and non-technical approaches to curriculum. So starting off with the humanistic aesthetic approach. So this approach is rooted in progressive philosophy, which promotes the liberation of learners from authoritarian teachers. It argues that those who favor the rational approach miss the artistic and personal aspects of curriculum and instruction. Humanistic or aesthetic approach is assembled by Shapiro in 1986, which follows the 5 principles developed by Ilyas and Miriam in 1980. It is said to be student-centered. The role of the teacher is the facilitator, the helper, or partner. Learning is highly personal. Goal is self-actualization, and growth is best fostered in cooperative, supportive environment. Second is the reconceptualist approach. So this approach, proponents argue that education is not to control instruction in order to preserve existing orders. So as for the reconceptualist approach, they view education, which is to emancipate society from traditional outmoded orders through individuals' free choice. So they believe that learning takes place normally. For the reconceptualist approach, the focus of the curriculum are the community, national, and world problems that need to be addressed through an interdisciplinary approach. It reflects on existentialist orientation that is sensitive to the inner feelings and experience of individuals. Next approach is the eclectic approach. What does this mean? It believes that curriculum is not a mere patchwork or pagtatagpi-tagpi, but rather a synthesis o pagbuo o paghahabi, where desired features from several models are selected and integrated into a new whole. Oftentimes, Filipino educators prefer eclectic model or the halo-halo, which are a combination of several approaches, rather than commit themselves to one particular approach only. However, even the eclectic models, one approach is emphasized over the others. For the reconstructionist approach, it emphasizes on the social-centered curriculum. It criticizes the progressivists for putting too much emphasis on the individual learner to the neglect of the needs of the society. The school is an institution of social reform. So those are again the 4 approaches to curriculum based on the non-technical and the non-scientific point of views. We have the reconstructionist, the eclectic, the humanistic, aesthetic, and the reconceptualist. This time, let's proceed to the non-technical models. We have the following: the postmodernist, the deliberation model, Slattery's approach, and Dahl's method. So, when we say non-technical approach, it is often used when the major source of curriculum content is the needs and interests of students or needs of society and culture. Intended learning outcomes are not stated at the outset. The non-technical approach is favored by educators with a subjective interpretation of reality because it allows them to interact with students and content to develop their own realities. That is according to Ornstein and Hunkins in 2007. In short, This approach relies heavily on the teachers as the major source of curriculum knowledge because they know their students and teaching contexts. Meaning, when we say non-technical or non-scientific model, the curriculum is primarily based on the teacher because they know their students, their potential, as well as the facility of the school wherein they are teaching. So they do not just follow a mere simple interrelated steps, but rather teachers are free to come up with their own means of delivering the lesson. So under the non-technical and non-scientific models, we have first from the postmodernist perspective. So it believes that curriculum or not all educational goals can be known. It prioritizes learners over subject matter. Learning is holistic and it cannot be broken into discrete parts. Students are always evolving and they are active participants in the learning process and not just passive recipients of knowledge. So as for the postmodernist perspective, it is also known as the post-constructivist. It stresses the subjective, personal, aesthetic, heuristic, spiritual, social, and transactional. Learner is the central focus, not the learner's output of inert information. Second, we have the deliberation model. So from the term itself, deliberate. How is this done? So this model views that educators communicate their views to their colleagues and students regarding education's goals and what should be taught. Curriculum development is non-linear and it proceeds from problem to proposal to solution. So the deliberation model, as suggested by Noy, have 6 stages. So you have the public sharing, highlighting agreement and disagreement, explaining positions, changes in position, negotiating points of agreement, and adopting a decision. So how is this done? For the public sharing, the first stage, people come together to share ideas about curriculum development. Then comes step 2. The group identifies agreement and disagreement. Here, all views are respectfully considered. Then, group members explain their position. Fourth, group members change their positions based on the data and arguments presented. Fifth, the deliberative process where group members agree regarding curriculum content, instructional approaches, and educational goals. And the last step, the group obtains consensus regarding curriculum's nature and purpose. Next one, we have the Slattery's approach, proposed by Patrick Slattery. So here, curriculum generates opportunities for students to deal with social and educational plight on a global basis. Curricularists need to be not just curriculum developers, but also scholars of curriculum. Educators need to accept that education is capable of reconceptualizing the concepts of schooling globally and locally. Followers of postmodern curriculum must reject all modernist stances regarding curriculum and schooling. And the last one, we have the Dahl's model of curriculum development, which was proposed by William Dahl Jr. So William Dahl actually suggested the 4 R's as an alternative of Tyler's guidance. So Dahl's work is a cluster of criteria for judging curricula, and it is based in postmodernism times. His idea is that curriculum should be generated with no predefined outcomes. So we have here the 4 R's. The first R is richness, which means the depth of curricular content and experience. Second R is the recursion, which refers to the process of iteration. Ulit-ulit. Relations, essential in 2 ways, the pedagogical and cultural. And last R is the rigor, which is the most important of the 4 R's. So again, as a summary, we have here approaches, the non-technical and non-scientific. Major assumption, curriculum development is subjective, personal, aesthetic, and transactional. So here, curriculum is viewed as conversation. The major model for this type of approach is the deliberation model. Next, curriculum development stresses the heuristic, spiritual, social. Here, curriculum is viewed as evolutionary. So example of this is the Slattery approach. Lastly, curriculum development accepts the orderly disorder, which curriculum is viewed as dynamic and an uncertain system. So the example for this is the doll's 4 R's approach. So this ends the part 1 of my report. See you on part 2.